offers were presented in person to a seller. It was actually really exciting.
So I was able to pull together a deal for a buyer because I saw all the cars drive away, but they hadn't accepted an offer. So I went in and I asked the listing agent, I said, what price does your seller want?
Like, tell me the price.
It was literally another $2,500. And
God.
everybody had physically driven away. I called my buyers and I said, guys, this is our house. Like,
you see, Amy, but why she's a top producer.
I wouldn't have seen that.
Thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
And of course, like you're saying,
I wouldn't have seen that if it was all digital, right? They would have just said, oh, well, your offer's not accepted.
I'm Cynthia Ostos, team leader and broker at eXp Realty here in the Greater Toronto Area. Welcome to Beyond the Sale, a real estate podcast where we discuss everything beyond the sale. Here we go. My name is Cynthia Ostos. I'm the host of the Beyond the Sale podcast. I'm here with the incredible Amy Gilmore from RE/MAX Hallmark.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I wouldn't be anywhere else.
No secret, you're one of my best friends. So I'm very excited to have you on the podcast. Amy and I will be chatting today about how selling real estate or the real estate industry just as a whole has changed, especially for us agents over the past decade. So I've been selling real estate since 2010 and you have been licensed since?
I think I'm honestly going into my 18th year.
Oh my goodness.
It's crazy.
You got licensed in?
I was 26 years old when I got my license. And it is
incredible.
18 years. Yeah.
So that's the thing. That's the topic for today, just because, there has been so many changes. Like we definitely are going to chat about some of them, but there's even ones that, won't even make the list, let's say. Just
we don't have enough time. We could talk for hours.
Of course
but the podcast doesn't have enough time.
But there's just been so many changes. And you and I actually met during one of those major, let's say, milestone changes that happened back in 2017.
We did. We had listings basically in the same neighborhood.
Mimico.
Yeah. And that's how I met you. I went to your open house and fast friends after that.
I know. I remember meeting you and I was just like, wow, this woman is incredible. And you just motivated me so much to even start a family.
Yeah, I had
definitely a
time.
Longer conversation there, but just like seeing someone that has it all together, mom, busy, top producer. So you were an inspiration and still are. So thank you, Amy, for coming to chat with me today. So I wanted to chat about, let's just go back into time. So let's rewind. And when I started back in 2010, let's just talk about some of the changes. So back then, of course, offers were all presented for the most part.
In person. Always in person.
I know all these COVID agents were we tell them no, we had to physically drive to our client's house, sit down, show them the offer, go through it in person, sign in person, drive back to our office. There was even offers sent by fax.
Yeah. Oh, I remember those days. Absolutely. Everything was in person. And it was when you were doing offers on any given evening, it took your entire evening.
100%.
You were gone for 4 hours.
You can't be in two places or off in Dubai when you got to do it in person.
100%. Yeah. That's your primary focus and everything is in person. Just with, in line with that, digital signatures, DocuSign.
Yeah. So we had to
think about how that has changed things.
It's just crazy. So even let's say, okay, you go to present an offer. So let's say back in the day again.
Yeah.
Before COVID, I would say, right?
Right.
Offers were presented in person to a seller. So you would be waiting outside in your car. Let's chat about that.
Idling.
Yeah. There was a lineup of agents with their clients in their cars.
Yeah.
And then one by one would go in.
You'd see the cars drive away one by one.
Yeah, it was actually really exciting. Do you remember the feeling though? Just waiting and
as every car drove away, I thought I'm getting closer. And I actually, because of that exact experience, I was able to pull together a deal for a buyer because I saw all the cars drive away, but they hadn't accepted an offer yet. They weren't accepting ours. So I went in and I asked the listing agent, I said, what price does your seller want?
Tell me the price.
It was literally another $2,500.
My
and
God.
Everybody had physically driven away. And I thought, I called my buyers and I said, guys, this is our house. Like,
You see, Amy, but that's
But
why
I-
she's a top
I
producer. It's
wouldn't have
called
seen that.
thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
And of course, like you're saying.
I wouldn't have seen that
Yeah.
if it was all digital, right? They would have just said, oh, well, your offer's not accepted.
Yeah.
Mhm.
As much as I love the
Mhm.
fact that now, it's much easier to do an offer through email.
Right.
I actually prefer in person just because I can go in
Mhm.
and basically, just present myself, because
Right.
we know sellers back in the day, if
Mhm.
the agent was presentable and professional,
Right.
they already were like, oh, we like this agent.
Right.
You were on the line back then. Like
So-
you yourself.
I remember when I had my daughter, she was 3 months old. She was in the back of my car and
Oh
I
my
went
God.
in, and it was a family home, right? So they were downsizing and I went in and I presented the offer and I said, I'm only going to be here for a few moments. I've got to go back in the car. My newborn is basically in the back of the car. And I think that was my winning, because they thought this poor girl, she's out here. And they ended up accepting the offer, which was amazing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So
you know?
back in those days,
Yeah.
like you showing up and actually building rapport with the seller was huge.
they realize you're a real person.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're a real person. You got to build the rapport, sort of build a case for your clients,
Right.
be professional, and get some face time, if you will, with the
Yeah.
seller, which you don't get nowadays.
No, not with an email.
So, of course, with COVID, all of that changed, right? So
Mhm.
now, ever since COVID,
Mhm.
offer presentations in person, they really don't happen.
No,
Right.
No, I haven't done one. They're all
I
online.
have.
Yeah.
So I have.
How?
I did one in the fall. I
Okay.
did two in person. One, both I was representing sellers in both cases,
Okay.
but one was at the house and one was here at my office. So
Wow.
in the fall, when it was so slow, I had to think of ways to think outside the box to be like, how am I actually going to put
Mhm.
this together?
Right.
So then I just thought, let me get the buyer like back in the day to come to the property. Let's see if we can do this tonight.
Yes.
Just like back in the day. So I was in shock with myself, just
Yeah.
thinking like, holy crap, it's been so long
Mhm.
since you did an in-person offer like
I
this.
know.
So yeah, I actually just did one. And
It's
guess what?
amazing.
I have someone I'm going to try and do that with tonight.
Oh, I love
So
it. Good for you.
I'll let you know how that goes.
Yeah.
But sometimes, when you've got difficult negotiations,
Mhm.
you've got to be like, how can I put this deal together?
Yeah.
So,
100%. Yeah.
And another big one, Amy, that I think is really interesting to talk about is 801s. So do you
Mm.
remember
Yeah.
before 801s were a thing, what would
Mhm.
buyers ask you all the time?
Well, they would always wonder how many other offers were submitted or if it was true.
Correct.
Like, was it really 4 other offers that
They
we were
never
competing
believed.
against? They never believed.
And we would just say, well, you just got to believe the listing
Yeah,
agent.
the agent said that there were 3 other people. Yeah, or
So
whatever,
in
right?
a market like Toronto, in the
Mhm.
GTA, where like there's a lot of times like bidding
Mhm.
wars. I hate that word. I
Mhm.
never like using that term, but multiple offers. So
Yeah.
the real estate board said, you know what, we need to come out with something. So they
Mhm.
came out with the 801. So the
Mhm.
801,
Mhm.
obviously now there's like a signed proof
Yep, that you're
that-
coming in with paperwork.
that the
Yeah.
buyer later, if the buyer basically doesn't get the property and they feel like that didn't go fair, they can
Mhm.
say, show us that you had X amount of 801s or X amount of offers.
Exactly.
Right. So
There's accountability.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the
I
801.
thought that
I think
was
it keeps
great.
it transparent. And then also as a buyer's agent, you're updated. You know
Yeah.
how many are officially
yeah,
registered.
there was a lot more transparency after
Yeah.
that. And I feel like there were some agents
Oh,
that
for sure.
were probably embellishing the amount of offers.
Or
that
they
had.
think, I think, what the difference between an offer actually
There's a big offer.
being real.
There's a big difference.
Or I'm talking to 6 other people that might make an offer. And
Yeah.
I think that, it's not black and white.
Just to share with our listeners, we all know how flaky the real estate industry, let's say, whether that's like, an agent that thinks they're getting an offer versus one in hand, like
Very different. Very, very different.
Yeah.
Oh,
you can
yeah.
think you're getting 10 offers.
Paperwork is paperwork.
But exactly.
That's it.
100%.
That's all that matters. Yeah.
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 So yeah, the 801 I love. And then what about sold data? That was not when we started selling real
No.
estate. We were the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
And that's why they was like a whole lawsuit and I don't know who sued who. We were just too busy selling real estate.
Yeah, we didn't have time to look
but
up.
the public didn't have access.
Didn't have access. Exactly. And now, I mean, the public is very knowledgeable, right?
Yes.
They're very, very knowledgeable about all the data. Often when I go into listing presentations, they know the price that all their neighbors sold for.
Yeah.
They have a lot of those facts already, right?
100%. The stress test.
Yeah.
That was one that also came along because again, the government, they're trying all these ways to, tame the market, but all these things that they're doing, like, I really don't think like any of them have, I mean, yes, buyer perception can change. The sentiment, like 2017, when the Fair Housing Act came out, the year we met, buyers definitely were like, well, we're going to put the brakes on, and we felt it.
It was probably 90 days of a serious pause at that time.
But in reality, did it actually change? Like,
in the long run, no. Toronto never sleeps. The
Temporarily.
GTA never sleeps. There's not enough housing, and I mean, it's part of the life cycle. People need housing.
Yep.
You can't stop your life.
Yep.
Right.
There are ups and downs.
Yeah.
Like the market can cool, but then just
last fall it was cool. It was really cool.
Very cool.
Last quarter,
and we're filming this just for everyone to know we're now March 2024.
Yeah.
So
and it's busy. It's ramping up.
Oh yeah.
Which is so interesting because interest rates have not changed yet.
They haven't.
Yet. But the buyer activity, open houses, offer dates, it's happening again.
Well, yeah, because buyers can only sit on the sidelines for so long.
Yeah.
So, of course, eventually they're going to come back out. Another big change, Amy, that I actually want to just really put on the radar here is cloud brokerages.
Yes. There's a billion brokerages now. A billion.
So even when we got into real estate, like I started with RE/MAX.
Yeah.
You were with...
I started with RE/MAX as well.
There we go. You're still with RE/MAX.
I'm back with RE/MAX.
But you've made some changes, of
Yeah.
course, hopped around like all agents do. But
Yeah.
when we started, like I would say like RE/MAX, Royal LePage,
Century
who
21
were like the
was big.
And these are like what we would call like the brick and mortar brokerages, like old school franchise model with like, your broker owners, all the staff and all of that. So something that's changed recently is 2, let's say, cloud-based brokerages. That's their whole thing. It's like when you look at the disruptors like Netflix, Blockbuster. You remember going to Blockbuster?
Yeah. How could you forget?
Of course. It was actually really fun to go and find movies
I loved
there.
it.
Yeah, me too. But now, of course, they shut down, right? So now it's Netflix and you just sit at home, watch all the movies.
Right.
So in real estate, in the real estate space, cloud brokerages are now a new thing. Like I know in the States, EXP has been around longer than Canada, but I see EXP and these cloud brokerages taking market share now because there's no brick and mortar. Obviously with EXP, I just switched to EXP. I'm very excited to be part of this new cloud brokerage. But there's just so many different revenue streams. As a top producer, there's an icon program where they will actually give me back shares in the company for my production. Like I just think
fantastic.
It's a great model. And the point is that now there is cloud brokerages where that wasn't even an option when we started. It wasn't even like a thing.
Right. It wasn't even a thing. And I found, especially because I started my business all those years ago, mostly in the suburbs, right? And in the suburbs, those key 3 brokerages have stayed there for the longer period of time. It was only when I moved over to the city that I noticed that that's where you're getting the smaller brokerages popping up.
Yeah, like the boutique brokerages.
It took the suburbs a long time to pick up.
Yeah, the boutique brokerages, I don't think they were as popular 10 years ago. And now, of course, you've got the boutiques, you've got the cloud brokerages. And truthfully, I feel like the public, they really, in my opinion, Amy, and I'd love to hear what you think, don't really care what brokerage you're with. There are maybe a small percentage of like old school people that care, but I find most times when I ask people at an open house, who's your agent and what brokerage are they with? They're like, I have no idea. Like,
I hopped around between different brokerages, RE/MAX, Keller Williams, Cloud Realty.
Same.
I'm now back at RE/MAX. We kind of followed each other.
We were at all the same ones.
But not always at the same time. We overlapped.
But we
literally,
I've been with Keller Williams. You've been with Keller Williams.
Yeah.
RE/MAX, we've been there. Both,
then Cloud.
You came to Cloud
after you did.
Yeah, I kind of brought you.
You brought me over 100%. But like, we've all hopped around a little bit. But, I'm
But the public, do you feel like they actually care what brokerage you're with? Like,
No,
are you going to lose
never
business,
announced to
Amy,
anyone.
because someone is like, you're not with?
No, I never made announcements to anybody that I was moving. It was more just personal, for how my business would benefit. That's why I made a move.
Yeah.
It wasn't about, I was still servicing my clients, but the brokerage needed to service me.
Exactly.
So that's why I moved. It wasn't an announcement for the client. I never went anywhere thinking, oh, I'll get more clients if I go to this
100%.
brokerage,
Because
right?
just so everyone understands, brokerages don't give you clients as a realtor. Like, I think that was one of the big things when I started in real estate. People would say, well, like, is the brokerage going to give you business? It's like, no, they don't give you clients, right? So we are the brand. I feel like we are, and so we have to go where is best for
where you're being served,
like for our team or whatever it is for our needs, right?
Absolutely.
So cloud brokerages, that's definitely a new thing, and we'll have to see how many more might pop up. But yeah, it's pretty exciting what's happening, and that takes me to some of the other exciting changes. So recently, our code of ethics that we operate under, so REBBA, is now called Presto Changeo.
TRESA.
Now it's Trust in Real Estate Services.
Yeah.
So I think December 1st, 2023 was when, of course, this came along. And I think that it does have some good, I think everyone was scared of TRESA, like as realtors on the back end.
Right.
People were like, what is going on here? Like, we're just trying to sell real estate. And the amount of changes that have happened.
All the paperwork is
just
different.
now, yesterday,
the rules,
they just changed all over again.
It's
like
constant changing.
People can't keep up.
No.
But for the public, I think this change to TRESA, so they made like a dumbed down information guide, which we have to give to our clients now, which is like 16 pages. We used to give working with a realtor one page. It's now 16 pages of information for, your average Joe to digest, which I think is way too long.
It's a lot.
What are your thoughts on this new guide?
I mean, it's extensive, right? And I think I find the challenge really is that a lot of the clients that I work with, they're all repeat and referral, right? I have a very, very healthy past client base that I still work with today. So to come back into a continuing relationship with a client who I've done 5, 6, 7 transactions with over the past 18 years, and now say to them, hey, we're already really comfortable with each other. You know that I know the market. We have a great trusting relationship together. But now we have to go through this entire TRESA info package. It's just, they already know the outcome because they've been through it with me already before.
I mean, when I read it, I was like, this is great. For agents, let's say where an agent didn't explain what they were doing for the buyer, for the seller, and did a crappy job, if you will.
It keeps people accountable.
It has a lot of accountability in there because it really breaks down exactly what you can expect from your buyer's agent or selling agent. It really breaks it down. So in that sense, I think it was a good change. Another really interesting thing that happened is now, as of December 1st, as a seller, you can decide if you want to sell your home using an open offer bidding system or not. Right.
Yeah.
So that is a new change. And that's a change, Amy, that the buyers were demanding and upset about. Like, everyone's like, oh, Toronto, I hate all these secret silent auctions. Like, we want it to be more transparent. And now it is. But guess what? How many agents do you know that are selling homes this way?
I don't see any benefit from the perspective of a seller. I literally had this conversation with a client. I'm getting his house ready for the market in the next couple of weeks. And we discussed this. And I basically said to him, I said, think of it as, 2 different scenarios of running a race, right? We're all in a race right now with, say, 10 other people. And our eyes are open in the first race and our eyes are closed in the second race. If I'm running a race and my eyes are open, I
don't know about this analogy.
Other than safety, obviously, take away tripping and all of that stuff, but like your footing. But just basically knowing, right, how much kick you have to give to win it, right? That's the open bidding. The closed, where you don't have access to any of the pricing specifically. Like, if I was running a race with a blindfold on and I knew, like, obviously your footing is safe, I'd I'd go hard. Like I want to win that race because I don't know how far ahead or behind anybody else is in that race with me. I'm going to give it all I've got. But if I already see that I'm running and you're like comfortably behind me, why am I going to push any harder? You know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you're saying. We did have a call with a gentleman from Open Offers, which, by the way, sellers can do this open offers, open bidding with their agent, of course, but there's no the real estate boards didn't really give us like direction on how we want to do this.
Right.
So, of course, because I'm always like researching everything, as you know, I got on the phone with Ryan from Open Offers, and he did explain to us, obviously, this is very successful in Australia. Right. Like that's how they sell real estate there. For the most part. And, the thing is, when it's an open offer, there's more confidence and there's more trust.
Right.
Where when it's closed, you don't have that. Right. So if it's all open and transparent, just like an auction, if you will, like, people are hearing what other people are bidding, right? Like, oh, I'm bidding $1 million. Someone else said, $1.5 million, right? You can still have a great outcome that way, because of the fact that it's very transparent and open. So, I mean, there's always different schools of thoughts about these things. But again, this is a new thing for the market. And on the flip side, buyers, the funny thing is now, like, buyers will put in a clause saying if this open offer happens or the seller decides to change halfway, because that's an option too. You can be in a closed bidding process and then the agent can just flip it open at any time. So there's clauses now that the buyer's going to rescind or pull their offer when it goes open. So I'm like, I don't get it. You buyers wanted this. Like this is more for the buyer than the seller.
100%.
I would say.
Yeah. I'm an advocate to keep it the way that it was when I'm representing a seller. I just feel that there's more benefit to my client as a seller to not disclose the sale price. But obviously for buyers, 100%. I mean, to be a buyer's agent and right, and be able to go back to your buyer and say, okay, this person's paying, $1.2 million. You just have to come up with literally another $1 and you're the top bid. Yeah. Like
it is cool. Right? It is cool. It's something, again, didn't exist 10 years ago. So I'm just seeing if there was any other things I wanted to chat about, but, I think we've covered a lot. Is there anything else you can think of that has really sort of change the industry, like in terms of day to day? Like,
I mean, I would touch on social media. I think that when we were, I mean, technology has also obviously come a long way, but now I feel like with
Chat GPT and AI,
there's all of that, but people are selling themselves based on Instagram, based on their lifestyles, based on like they create a following on that level, whereas 10 years ago, that
never existed. You're right.
That was not a thing. So there's a lot of, I don't want to specify specifically, but younger agents who come out of the gates and they have no experience, they have nothing, but they're selling themselves based on, just their lifestyle and who they are, which I think is a cool angle, but they also don't have any experience, right? So it's just different how people market themselves now.
For sure. 100%. Oh my God. That is like when we started, was Instagram around? Sorry, I'm dating myself.
No, like I feel like it was Facebook. It was Facebook.
I feel
there
like
was
it was
Instagram.
You're right. It was Facebook. There was no Instagram. We know Facebook now is basically buying up everything.
Yeah.
But social media, I mean, it wasn't even a thing. Like this whole, I call it social media realtor. Right?
Yeah.
People
the stars.
The stars out there.
Yeah.
So market predictions, I wanted to see what your thoughts are for this year, since it is the spring market just about to start.
We're now rolling. Yeah. The feel out there, it's busy. Open houses are busy. Offer dates are happening again.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because the interest rates were announced.
Yesterday.
They stayed the same. Yeah. Right. So they're holding, but the buyers, it's kind of like this hungry.
There's appetite.
I just feel like the second they drop the rates, it's going to be like a rat
We're going to
race.
have to see how it plays out, because it's not going to. Rates will never be, in my opinion, what they were during COVID. Never say never. I don't have a crystal ball, but they're going to not drop to 1% and 2%.
No,
that's not what people are waiting for. But it'll be more affordable again to enter the market.
It'll give encouragement. And I think it's just that theme with the news and the media and the general public, feeling. It will
sentiment,
give confidence, people will fly.
Well, you saw January 1st, like it already picked up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, but let me ask you, 10 years from now, so let's say we're in 2034, right? What do you think changes that we might not even think are coming? Like, will realtors still be around in 2034?
I mean, there's so much value that we do offer. That's the thing that, despite the technology, despite open access to information, I think at the end of the day, people they're not buying a loaf of bread at the store. Like, it's a huge investment.
Yes.
And they need help and they need guidance. I mean, think about from a seller's perspective. It's not even just so simple as selling the home. You're dealing with someone who's maybe downsizing, dealing with all of their furniture, removal, and just the process.
So when a seller says to you, a monkey could sell a home in this market, don't tell me you haven't heard that before.
Yeah, I mean, you hear it all. But it's like the people that I work with anyways, it's like it's a relationship, right? Like they trust that you have their best interest at heart, right? So just that honest guidance, that's what you can't get from a black and white internet sale.
So you think
post.
We'll still be around? Because there are people, Amy, that say that realtors, first of all, they hate us.
Yeah.
A lot of people hate us.
Not as much as people hate lawyers, though. I'll agree with that. Or the dentist, lawyers and dentists. I'd rather be a realtor than a lawyer or dentist.
But yeah, some people out there, they think it's our fault. The prices are what they are. We're just sleazy and all these other things. So people are hoping we go away or wishing that, we're not around. But I think like you said, it's a relationship business and there's so much to know when you buy or sell a home. Like there is just, you can read articles and, we've had clients we worked with this year where they were like, that's actually not true. Mythbuster, actually, that's what they're calling Daquan, these buyers that worked with us, because Daquan would be like, actually, no, that's not true. And these buyers thought they were so well versed that they knew everything, like they were like ready, but along the way, like he was like, actually, that's not true, or that's not true. Right. And just like everything that we do to educate people and the whole process, like it is not,
it's extensive.
It's extensive. It's not like just a walk in the park to buy or sell a home.
But it also changes so quickly, the market. What I would say to a seller, maybe 2 weeks ago is different than what I would recommend 100%. Today.
100%.
It's a constantly evolving ecosystem. So unless you're in it constantly.
I say that all the time. We see the changes.
It changes all the time. You feel it. You feel it maybe when you're working with buyers and there's a new scenario happening with offer presentations, and then you can use that information to help relate to your upcoming seller client. You know what I mean? Like you feel it, you see what's happening, right? So.
Yeah. And what I see a lot of is just misinformation that people have, right? Like I'll give you an example. There was a couple that came to see one of my listings.
Right.
And this house was priced, let's say, in and around $2 million. So they didn't have an agent. They met me at the property. They were very interested. And I was like, okay, like maybe this is like a viable buyer for this home.
Right.
Of course, I go to meet with them at their home and I find out that someone told them a few years ago that they could get 1.7 million for their home. Okay. Right. And I was looking at them like, I don't know why anyone would tell you that. Like it just wasn't true.
Right.
And so I said to them, I think your home is worth around 1.5. So it's like this whole time, these buyers thought that like they could get X. And it's like, no, that's actually not the case. Like just misinformation that people have. Right. So I think there's a lot of that. And it's because the market changes so much.
Well,
because like
quickly.
Last fall it was dead. Now multiple offers are back. Like you can't keep up with this as a buyer or a random person from the public unless this is what you do for a living every single day.
Exactly. And if you're selling your home, it's not that you just make the decision and it's on the market tomorrow. There's a lot of prep work that goes into getting a house ready. There's a lot of people involved to get a house ready. You have to book them. You have to organize them. It's like baking a cake.
Oh my God.
A system.
It's a project.
It takes a few weeks
to manage.
Right? Depending on what you have to do. And the market could change again in 3 weeks.
Oh my God. It's
right.
If people only knew like, what we see, the ups and the downs and all of the things that just happen in this crazy market that we're in.
But we love it.
We love it. We keep doing it. And it's definitely my passion. I'm pretty sure it's yours.
Yeah. I love it. It's more than a job. It's more than a career. It's like a lifestyle, right?
100%. I'm addicted to real estate. So
yeah, you and I will be 85 hobbling around and opening up lockboxes probably.
I don't think so, Amy. We'll be retired on a beach somewhere.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
I'll open up the odd few just to keep me going. Can't totally retire.
Lock boxes.
You can't totally retire. You can't fully give it up.
I know. It is like an addiction what we do, especially because we're so good at it. So
well, when you work with clients and they grow with you, it's like I met people in my early sort of mid 20s, getting their first rental properties and growing up the line from there. It's like
it is. It's incredible to see.
We just grow with these people.
Relationships. Yeah. Right? It's a people business. So thank you, Amy, so much for
Cynthia.
coming on the show today. And thank you to everybody for tuning in to the podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And check the podcast out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and tune in to our next show.